Welcome back everyone to Formula 1 2021 and welcome to your practice report here in Portugal for the 2021 Portuguese Grand Prix. If you're new to the channel or have never caught a practice report before, don't you worry. What we'll be doing in today's video is going through all of the action in today's two practice sessions, FP1 this morning and FP2 this afternoon, taking a look at all the dramas, taking a look at which teams are looking good going into qualifying, but more importantly, which teams are looking good for the race on Sunday. As always, if you are new, feel free to subscribe to keep up to date with all Formula 1 2021 news, reviews, all that good stuff. But without further ado, let's take a look at your times from today's practice session. And in the morning, it was business as usual for Mercedes with Valtteri Bottas a 1:19.648 topping the timing tower. But the Red Bull duo of Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez, 2 and 3, it looks like once again in 2021, Red Bull versus Mercedes is going to be the real story of this weekend. 30 laps for Bottas, 31 for Hamilton, only 22 and 21 for Verstappen and Perez. Is that Red Bull trying to hide back a little bit of their pace? We'll have a look at FP2 in a moment's time. Charles Leclerc was P4, only 2/10 off the best time of Valtteri Bottas. Ferrari seemed to have some real pace here this weekend. However, they've already looked pretty good in 2021 and that seems to be continuing here in Portimao. Gasly, P6, 7/10 off Valtteri Bottas, but the lap of the day in FP1, if that's even a thing I guess, George Russell, 7th place. The Williams driver finished in the morning session 8/10 off Bottas's best time. Not a bad job at all in that Williams car. Maybe, just maybe, could scrape through into Q3. They're not expecting anything crazy this weekend, and actually FP2, the session that gives us a little bit more representative times, the pace isn't quite as good as FP1 was suggesting, but still not too bad, still improvements when you compare them to last year and definitely 2 years ago in 2019. Lando Norris for McLaren was P8, Carlos Sainz P9, and rounding out the top 10, Esteban Ocon in P10. I want to talk about Alpine in a moment's time because especially in the afternoon, a few secretive upgrades over the last couple of weeks seems to give them a little bit of an edge heading into this weekend's Grand Prix. Your bottom half in the morning session starts off with Lance Stroll for Aston Martin with Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda, 16 laps completed each, 12th and 13th at the end of the session. Fernando Alonso, the only driver in the morning to set his fastest lap time on the hard compound tyres. Considering it's only 1.6 off Valtteri Bottas, that's a stonking lap from Fernando Alonso. 23 laps for the two-time world champion, with world champion of 2007 Kimi Raikkonen 1 place behind him in P15. The four-time world champ Sebastian Vettel was 16th, with Davidson Callum replacing Antonio Giovinazzi for FP1. A really solid morning. 20 laps under his belt, only 4/10 off Kimi Raikkonen's best time. No spins, no mistakes, no errors of note. A really good session. Well done, Callum. Ilot's arch rival from last season, Mick Schumacher, was P18, with Latifi and Mazepin your top 20. And in the afternoon, the session we always say gives us a little bit more of a representative times, with teams going for race runs for the majority of the session. A few qualifying runs as well, qualifying simulations sprinkled throughout. This is the session we can really understand who's looking good for the race and who's looking good in qualifying. And in the afternoon, once again, it was a Mercedes at the top of the times. This time, Lewis Hamilton, a 1:19.8, was actually 2/10 slower than the time of Bottas in FP1. But with Bottas in P3, that meant Max Verstappen split the two Mercedes, and it really is so hard to work out who is going to be on top over the course of this weekend. Bottas was P3, 3/10 off his teammate in the afternoon. Carlos Sainz P4, but the two Alpine cars really putting on a performance. 5th and 6th, their best collective practice session of the season so far. Never read too much into practice, but that's a big step forward to where they've been over the course of this season so far. They will hope for double points again this weekend, and that car around this circuit really does look pretty good. Charles Leclerc was P7 with the lead McLaren of Ricciardo in P8, Stroll was 9th, and a difficult session for Sergio Perez. A difficult day really for Sergio Perez, never quite got the car to the levels Verstappen was able to do on a consistent basis. He's got work to do in tomorrow's FP3 before qualifying in the afternoon. Your bottom half was started with Pierre Gasly in P11, not quite the form we've seen so far in 2021 for AlphaTauri, with Tsunoda in P14. It was the British duo of Norris and George Russell once again doing a really good job in practice this afternoon, 12th and 13th for the two of them, just 1.1 seconds off the fastest time for the Williams of Russell. Vettel continues his struggles at the start of this season in 15th. The two Alfa Romeos, Raikkonen and a returning Giovinazzi, was 16th and 17th. Schumacher, Latifi and Nikita Mazepin, once again your bottom three, which rounds up your times from today's two sessions. So then, with all the laps, with all the numbers, with all the data available to us, who is looking good heading into this weekend's race? Well, here is my predicted running order. For the first time this year, I've gone with Mercedes as the team to beat. Overall so far this season, I think Red Bull have been on top. Bahrain pole position, arguably should have got pole position last time out in Imola, but at a circuit which really seems to highlight the benefits of the Mercedes car, I think they will just be able to beat Red Bull. But as we all know, never discount Max Verstappen, and on a circuit where I don't think strategy is going to play a huge role, actually what we saw today with the Pirelli tyres is I think they've gone a bit conservative on this weekend's choices. We mentioned it yesterday on the preview, C1, C2 and C3, the hardest range possible for 2021 tyres. I'm not too sure that was the right decision. And judging the pace from both Mercedes and Red Bull as well, I think we could end up with a race where the soft tyres will last so long and the degradation just won't really be there for the majority of the race. A lot of these teams, I think, will stick it out with the soft tyres with a shorter stint on the mediums. It's something we normally see in places like Sochi, in Russia, and sadly it could be a feature of this weekend's race. But as always, a safety car or two could really mix up the field, and never discount Max Verstappen, never discount Sergio Perez, and I suppose never discount Red Bull Racing. Mercedes and Red Bull, my two to beat. In behind them though, as usual, it's just so difficult to predict. However, despite not putting in ridiculously flashy times in any of today's practice session, race runs, especially in the afternoon, McLaren did look pretty good. And they really do seem to be that team that are just a tiny step in front of the rest of that midfield for the time being. And I want to say that with a pinch of salt, because Ferrari's times and Alpine's times were nice and flashy. They were nice and high on the leaderboards in FP2. But something we did see, especially with Ferrari today, is though their times on the soft tyre are really good at the start of the stint, the longevity on those tyres isn't quite there, and actually their overall pace on a long race run stint isn't quite as good as McLaren, and I don't think it's quite as good as Alpine, who I mentioned earlier are really trying to put the upgrades they had on the car last weekend and a few software upgrades they have for this weekend, putting them to good use, scoring not only double points for the second weekend in a row, but their first big points haul of the season. And I think on a track where Fernando has done so much running with the 24 hours with LMP1 at this particular venue, I think he really could be one to watch this weekend. And Ocon, who had a great race last time out, one of my drivers of the weekend, can he improve this time out? AlphaTauri seem a little bit off the pace, a little bit uncharacteristic for their car, but this could just be one of those circuits which doesn't really suit them. Gasly had a great drive here last year, and though this weekend isn't quite looking as good at the moment, I still expect Gasly to make it through to Q3 and Tsunoda to be pushing really close to trying to get both cars through into the top 10. Aston Martin I think it's going to be a similar story to the opening 2 races. Stroll on the fringes of the top 10 with Seb maybe struggling a little bit through to Q2, but I would be very surprised if he makes it into Q3. And our traditional back 3, Alfa Romeo, Williams and Haas. Alfa and Williams seem to be a step in front of Haas, and I think this is the first of what's going to be a very long season for Haas. That gap already seems to be forming from them and the step up of the next 2 teams in front of them, and I think this weekend, once again, is going to be very difficult for their 2 rookie drivers. And before we go, yesterday I wanted to know your predictions for this weekend's Portuguese Grand Prix. And as always, I wanted you to follow this grid knowing who's going to be on pole position in qualifying, who is going to be on the front row, and which driver, what event is going to be the biggest shock on Saturday's qualifying session. And in the race, who is going to be your winner, which other 2 drivers will be on the podium, first DNF, best overtake, and the big one, who is going to be the Portuguese Grand Prix driver of the day. And our 2 winners, starting off with Brett Geens, who has gone with Max Verstappen on pole position, a Red Bull 1-2 with Sergio Perez for 2 weekends in a row, P2 in qualifying. His big shock on Saturday, Sebastian Vettel P7 for Aston Martin. That's not bad at all, but on race day, Max Verstappen will be your winner. Hamilton and Charles Leclerc on the podium. Mazepin, the first DNF. The best overtake is Yuki Tsunoda on Lance Stroll. And driver of the day with that 3rd place finish is Charles Leclerc. And your second winner for this weekend is Chris VDB, who has gone with Max Verstappen on pole, Valtteri Bottas on the front row. A bit of a rejuvenation for the Finn. Gasly P5 continuing his incredible start to 2021 on a Saturday, but come race day it's Verstappen and Perez, a Red Bull 1-2, Hamilton P3, so Bottas is 2nd place in quali, not going too well in the race. Raikkonen to be the first DNF, Perez on Bottas having an epic duel from turn 6 to turn 10 is going to be the best overtake of the race, and driver of the day is Sergio Perez. And that is it from me here in Portugal for your practice report. I'll be back tomorrow with a bit of qualifying analysis. Thank you all very much for watching. If you are new, feel free to subscribe, like if you enjoyed, and hope to see you all in the next one.